Welcome to the Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show Podcast, a presentation of Real Country 92.1 Hank FM and NTXVarsitySports.com. Live from Parker County Brewing Company in Willow Park. The Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show Podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. And now, here's the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist.
Hello and welcome to the Aledo Coaches Show Podcast. I'm Kevin Lonnquist. We are here at Parker County Brewing Company, just off of Ranch House Road, here in eastern Parker County. We will bring you every podcast from this location throughout the 2025-26 school year. As always, we want to thank our two main sponsors between H5 Sports Barn and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. We continue to appreciate their support of this podcast and Aledo Athletics. Well, the winter weather got us last week, and we didn't have a podcast, but we are back this week, of course, and there is a lot to discuss. So let's begin with Monday on Realignment Day. Aledo moving into Class 6A and isn't officially in District 3 6A. No surprise part is that they are going to share it with Granbury, which is also moving up to Class 6A, along with Weatherford, which is right down the road on I-20. But the surprise part is that the Arlington schools are part of this mix. That's Arlington High, Bowie, Lamar, Martin, and Sam Houston. Then there is Aledo's non-district schedule. Pretty daunting. In this order, North Crowley, and then the Bearcats lost their opener with Denton Ryan, and we'll talk to Coach Jones here in just a few moments about that. Waco Midway, and then Euless Trinity. Now, turning to basketball, both the Bearcats and Lady Cats basketball teams have clinched playoff berths from District 5-5A. Now it's about claiming district championships. The Lady Cats have moved up in the rankings in the Texas Association of Basketball Coaches Class 5A poll. They are now number 14 at 21-7. They were number 15 last week. They lead District 5-5A at 9-0 after beating Saginaw Chisholm Trail 50-33, and then at Keller Fossil Ridge 51-33. Bearcats basketball clinching a 20-win season for the third straight year, currently 22-6 and 8-0 in 5A. Last week, Aledo beat Chisholm Trail 69-34 and won a tight one on the road at Fossil Ridge 62-56. Now, by the end of this week, these teams could be district champions. Both play host to Saginaw on Tuesday. Then on Friday, they travel down to Hood County to take on Granbury. The girls will wrap up the season next Tuesday. A special 3-segment podcast for you. As I mentioned, we're joined by head coach Robby Jones, who returns to talk about the Bearcats' new district home and this challenging non-district schedule. Then in our second segment, we will move on with boys coach Drew Baker. Girls coach Donnie Ott will not be able to join us because he has a schedule conflict. And then in our final segment, we will visit with players from each team. Junior guard Josiah Jenkins from the boys squad and senior guard Liz Griffin from the girls squad. Liz is going to be making her second appearance with us because she was on this show last year. Okay, Coach, welcome back. Good to see you again.
Yeah.
I hope you had a great holiday season.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Okay, so let's just talk about overall thought about the district assignment. You likely figured, as we all kind of thought, that you were going to be grouped together with Granbury and Weatherford. Made a lot of sense geography-wise. But Arlington, I think that caught a lot of people by surprise, and so, but of course that's what the UIL does.
Yeah, I mean, we were not expecting Arlington at all. You know, we knew Granbury and Weatherford were probably, going to be in the district. You know, there was the possibility of going out west, but I didn't think that was going to happen because of, all the other sports that would be involved in that. If it was just a football district, yeah, I could see them sending us out west with those schools. But, with volleyball and basketball, baseball, softball, all of those schools are going to have to travel in the middle of the week. And then, again, on Friday, I didn't think that was going to happen. So, big surprise with Arlington, North Crowley, those guys, we felt like, they might have been in the district with us, but the UIL, kind of drew the lines down 30 and down 20, as far as, the districts were concerned.
Yeah, and we'll talk about North Crowley and Crowley going east here into Region 2 here in just a little bit. And as you mentioned, relieved you're not going west. I know there were some projections of maybe going to the Midland and Odessa schools, and as you talked about travel with the other sports being a problem, especially with those midweek games too. And so that seemed to be a little bit more far-fetched. That might have been more of an urban legend kind of discussion because people leading up to a day like today, they like to put all these mock districts together and they like to make it more sensational than maybe what it really is. And I wrote last week for NTX Varsity Sports that travel and budgetary concerns really have to enter into this. And it's not so much the travel, well, it is the travel, I should say, but there's also some dollars involved too if you're renting buses and then coming all the way back and that sort of thing too.
Yeah, I mean, we would be renting, charter buses every trip.
Yeah.
And that was going to put, a big strain on our school district if we were going to be able to do that. So I think the UL did the right thing by not sending us out there. Now, everybody's going to debate, of which district they think we should have been in. I see no problem with, the Arlingtons. Now, the thing with the Arlingtons, I wasn't expecting it, so I didn't research those guys a whole lot.
Right.
So once I got back after we had the district meeting, that was one of the things I did was I looked up all the schools to see how they did last year because, we've been, focused on the 5As. We weren't really paying attention to what all the 6As were doing. So, we had to go back and look and see, how those guys have been doing the last couple of years.
Yeah, in fact, this school really has no history against any of the Arlington schools except for Arlington Seguin in a couple of district cases.
Yeah.
That's it. And so I think, if you can correct me on this, I thought there was a couple years ago when Tim Buchanan was coaching here that he was trying to get a non-district together, home and home with Martin, and it never came about. Maybe I got that confused with Cedar Hill at one point.
I mean, that could be possible. That he might have, tried to get one of those schools involved, but I don't remember that.
Yeah. Again, I might be running too many things running in my mind. Okay, so the schedule itself. Again, you open up. And I'll get to the enrollment situation here in just a second. But the one thing that was interesting here is the fact that you open up with teams like a North Crowley. Won a state championship 2 years ago. Now, they went through a coaching change a little while ago. But I think what's also interesting here is you wanted to load up with your non-district schedule as much as you did, much as you've done in previous years. Last year, the last 2 years rather, Denton, Guyer, and Lancaster. And so this year, of course, with North Crowley, with Midway out of Waco. Some folks like to say it's Hewitt just because of where it specifically is. They're going through a transition time with Joe Gillespie. And, of course, Euless Trinity, which has always been a strong program under Steve Lineweaver and now his son Aaron Lineweaver. So just talk about, and you really had Midway and Trinity kind of locked up there, but it was the opener with Denton Ryan that you thought you had, but then when Dave Hennigan retired, that all kind of changed.
Yeah, we lost that game after the new coaching hire there, and we wanted to try to Coach Hennigan and I talked back in June about that game, and he asked if we were going 6A. I said, yeah, it looks like we're probably going to be 6A, so we won't be in the same district next year. He said, well, let's play. And so we set it up for week one. So, that was, something we thought we had. So I wasn't looking for, anybody else to play in that week. And then I got a week 2 locked in with Coach Gillespie because we have a great relationship because his son played with us.
Right, Jake.
And then week 3, we had a couple of other possibilities and those fell apart, so we, went with Trinity. So, we were looking for that week 1 game. I've been looking ever since we lost the Ryan game. And there just wasn't a whole lot of people out there that were willing to play us, that needed a week 1.
Right.
And it came down to, I was looking at Jenks, Oklahoma, Austin Westlake, and then when we weren't put in the district with North Crowley, went over, found Coach Harris. He was actually talking with Ray Gates at the time, and I said, hey, do y'all have a week 1? And they did, but they were like, y'all are a lot closer, and we'd rather play y'all. So they went and found the team that they were supposed to play week 1. They changed up their week 1, week 3 with them, I think, is what they tried to do. And we got a game there with them. And then at the same time, you had DeSoto sitting there waiting to see if we didn't have a week 1.
So you and Claude were talking about that.
Well, it wasn't Claude. It was a couple of his assistants.
Okay.
He had his assistants out. They're in the same boat as we are.
Right.
A lot of people aren't going to play us for whatever reason. I feel like I'm a nice guy, but
maybe the program hasn't been so nice over the years to a lot of teams, but that's another story. And
so it's hard to find games, and like I said, it was a possibility of going to Austin Westlake or going up to Jenks, Oklahoma.
Well, we did that home and home about 15 years ago with Lake Trappist, and so we understand what that's all about.
And actually, I had talked to Hank Carter at Lake Travis, about that possibility again. But he originally had Coppell locked up week 1. And then when their district came out and he didn't have Dripping Springs in their district, he switched that and he picked up Dripping Springs, so which is a lot closer.
Sure, it makes a lot
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. One thing I was noticing here as I was looking at the schools is the enrollment situation. Of course, now you're in the free-for-all status because the top 2 schools with the highest enrollment make the playoffs in Division I. The second 2 with enrollment are in Division II. Now, that doesn't sound any different, but the brackets are different now because of the way the district is lined up. Because in the previous years in 5A Division I, you already knew you were going to go Division I. If you were if you were at a different, smaller enrollment because of how the UIL put the cutoff together, then you were going to be in Division II. But in this way, in 6A, and I know that they've talked about trying to do a dividing line for football for Division I and Division II. They've never gotten that far yet, but it's kind of like a free-for-all where you've got to figure out, am I going to be the Division I school? Am I going to be the Division II school? And I don't know which bracket I'm going to go into because I could have 2,404 students, which Aledo does, but I could be going Division I if the other team's coming out of there a smaller school. That's
right, and I haven't looked at all of the enrollments from all the other schools. I think there might be 2. If I'm not mistaken, that are smaller than us. You might have that information.
I do actually, yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
So there is the possibility.
Yeah. Now, here's what I'm looking at here, because I think I looked at this correctly. Your enrollment puts you, I think, 6th among all the schools in this District 3-6A. You're just higher than Bowie, the district champion the last couple of years, and you're higher than Granbury, and I think that's it. You're pretty close to Weatherford, about a 70-student difference there, so it's kind of negligible from that regard. And then that's where it kind of separates them, because I think Arlington High is about 2,800. I think Lamar is in the 2,600 range, something like that. Then you have Martin and Sam Houston, which are above 3,400. So there seems to be some decent balance there. It's not like this wide gap of student enrollment. I mean, 1,000 students is a lot. Let's not kid ourselves. But at the same time, you're in a position here where there still is some balance in there. So I would have to think from that aspect, you're okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. We're in 6A, and we knew that going in, that we're going to be going up against schools that are going to have, over 1,000, maybe even 2,000 or more students than what we have. So it's just something we got to deal with now, and we're just going to line up and, put our best 11 out there against their best 11.
Okay, so the coaches and the administrators have already met. They've already put together the district schedule, which for me is like such a rapid pace. I remember years ago that these district meetings were lined up perhaps like a week or 2 down the road, and then they would start drawing the lots and then putting the district schedules together. But we've all kind of fast-forwarded this because everybody's in the same place at the same time, so let's get this done now. So just talk about how this all came together so fast for you guys today.
Yeah, so I had a couple of the Arlington ISD coaches' phone numbers. So as soon as that came out, they started texting me and let me know, hey, Arlington ISD is at the middle table, so they're always in the same district together, so they know where they're going to meet, at the Birdville, meeting that we have every year. And so us and Weatherford and Granbury got there with them. Of course, I was looking for games.
Right.
I was like, okay, I got to get a week 1 and a week 3 locked down. So Coach Belk was there, and they started talking about, drawing numbers, and because they have schools that, were multiple schools in one district, but they have 3 stadiums that they play at. I can't remember exactly which schools were. 2 of them, 2 of the Arlington schools had UTA Maverick Stadium. 2 of them had Choctaw, and 1 of them was sharing with Arlington Seguin at whatever their new stadium is.
I think it's at Martin, if I remember correctly.
They've got a new stadium over there, but so they had it divided up, and then we draw numbers, which puts you in who you're going to play when, and all that. And we also decided at that point that week 5 or after week 5 was going to be everybody's bye week, and then after they did all that, then it was okay at 10:30 we're meeting at Arlington ISD's facility over there where they got the big volleyball gym and all that stuff, and so everybody drove over there and we met and talked about some other things as well.
The other thing I was interested in hearing about as far as this district schedule is concerned, and we can get to this at another time, but one of the highlights of it is the fact that unlike the previous few years, because you were in the odd-numbered district where you kind of had to rotate it, or at least it was set for you for 2 years, you guys had it with, I think, 3 games left in the season, or maybe it was 3 games left in the season. You had it right after the Granbury game, which was, I think, week 7, 8, something like that. But this year, with an even-numbered team district, the district everyone's kind of used this in 6A where a lot of districts were, like I know the District of Doom with Duncanville, DeSoto, and Cedar Hill, they all kind of split the season where they're all taking the same week off, which is what you all are doing, as you mentioned, taking the bye off in the middle of the season, which is around October 9th. You like that?
Yeah, I mean, I do. You know, sometimes you do it, you know, right after your preseason. So we had to play the 3 preseason games, have the week off, and then start district. But I like getting, you know, kind of the middle of the season, to, you know, to get that, you know, kind of week off to rest and heal some bodies up.
Okay, so let's just talk a little bit more about, I guess, as far as this district is concerned. Again, you had to do some research on this. Bowie has won the district championship the last couple of years. Back in the day, of course, we never knew that Lamar's reputation spoke for itself. Martin had some really great teams about 10, 15 years ago, that sort of thing. Maybe a little bit less than that, but seems like things have kind of changed a little bit there. But at the same time, it's still 6A, and so it's a numbers game too, and so it's going to be a grind for these 7 games.
And you're going to see some really, really good football players. You know, you look at some of the guys that have come out of some of these schools in Arlington. You know, Miles Garrett.
Yes.
You know, he's one of the ones that sticks out. But they've had a lot of good football players that have come out of the Arlington School District. So, and we played Arlington Seguin, and whenever we played Arlington Seguin, it was a lot better game than what a lot of people thought because they had really good athletes.
And I think one of those things, too, is that the fact that, you know, for you all, it's a different – I don't know if it's so much a numbers game, but I'm wondering if you have to do anything with your off-season program, more intensity. Obviously, you'd like to get more numbers, but does that change anything in terms of the way you guys will approach your off-season or have been approaching your off-season?
No, it doesn't change a whole lot because, you know, we always have prepared ourselves and prepared our kids to go and compete at the highest level possible. And that's what we're doing. You know, we're going and we're going to go compete at the highest level possible. So that's what we're going to train our kids to do.
Okay. A couple of things here unrelated to you guys. Just anything else that jumped out. I guess for me, obviously, as we were speaking about a few moments ago, is North Crowley and Crowley moving over to Region 2 to be in Duncanville's district. And that's the big shocker there because as we were talking about at the beginning of our visit, everyone was just under the impression that you all were going to go in with North Crowley and Crowley, and then that didn't happen. Then, of course, the other big factor is DeSoto and Cedar Hill both dropping down to 5A Division 1. Of course, that District of Doom, which was so famous in South Dallas County, no more. But
well, 3 of them dropped down.
Yeah,
Lancaster was involved in that as
Lancaster
well.
dropped down too, excuse me. But the fact of the matter is that district doesn't look anything like it used to because of numbers. But at the same time, you got North Crowley joining Duncanville over there. Besides that one, anything else that stood out to you?
No, I haven't had a chance to go back and look at everything. I just was focused on what we were doing and the fact that I had to find games. You know, that was a big part. You know, Nolan Ruth, you know, was scheduled to have me on at 9:15 for his podcast that was live, you know, at Birdville, and I wasn't able to get over there till, I don't know, 9:45-ish maybe because, you know, number one, I was trying to find 2 football games, you know, and then also, you know, our district was trying to meet. And, you know, I kind of left the district meeting with Coach Belk and let her handle that while I went and tried to find football games.
And you did. We'll talk more, too. Just early question here might be too premature to ask, but do you have an idea of what your spring dates look like yet or still work in progress?
Looks like April 13th, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be when we start. And then the spring game, I haven't, you know, I've got a couple of dates in there for that, you know, mid-May, right before we, you know, get out of school. Probably the week before we get out of school, we'll have the spring game. We haven't talked about, we tried to do an afternoon game last year, but for whatever reason, we had a heat wave, and the school was worried about some of the fans coming in and being too hot, you know, for all of that. So we canceled it and went to the morning. I haven't talked to Coach Belk yet, but to see if they're wanting to try to have us do an afternoon spring game or not. So that's something we'll look at. But no, I mean we're getting going in that. You know, we got the signing day. You want to talk about that here in a minute? Yeah, okay, I won't.
Well, no, I won't change. Well, I mean, we might as well talk about it here. I mean, because you know, Casey Miller is going to be signing with Hardin Simmons, and then of course Ryan Campbell with Trinity University down in San Antonio. Lincoln Tubbs and Cooper Cyphers, who we've already mentioned before, could have signed in December, but they waited to sign. Well, I think Lincoln could not sign until actually February, or could he have?
Well, I think they just kind of waited on that. Yeah.
Okay. So he's going to sign with the Air Force. Cooper Cyphers with Montana. And then the good news was that, I remember this happened, I think the week leading up to the state semifinals against Frisco Lone Star was Jamal Hollister got the offer from Southwest Baptist in Missouri. So I'm happy to see that for him.
And he went and visited them, I think, last week. And, he's committed to go there. We got a couple other guys that, have some offers, have some things that they're looking at, and they just aren't ready to sign right now. Skylar Kirk's going to end up going somewhere. Brady Powell's going to end up going somewhere, but they just haven't, decided exactly what they're going to do yet.
All right, sounds good, Coach. Well, look, thanks for taking the time out of your offseason. I know the chaos of Monday has now subsided from realignment day. You can kind of catch your breath, and now you know what your season is going to look like for the next 2 years. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
All right. And we want to remind you that this Aledo Coaches Show podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn. H5 Sports Barn and Nye Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training, H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. And by Hiley Mazda. Head to Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth today. Their new state-of-the-art facility is conveniently located just off of I-30, exit Las Vegas Trail, and experience top-notch service and hassle-free buying. Don't forget to ask about this month's special offers. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, family-owned and operated for over 30 years. Stick around, second segment of this 3-segment podcast coming up. We're going to be joined by boys head coach Drew Baker. Back after this timeout. Back here on the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, I'm Kevin Lonnquist. Before we bring on Coach Baker, let's give you a couple of Aledo notables. From our discussion from Coach Jones, here are some key dates for the 2026 high school football season. The first day of conditioning for Class 6A schools is on August 10th. The first week of the season is going to be that weekend of August 26th through the 28th. The season will conclude the weekend of November 5th through the 7th, then the playoffs will start the week after that. State Championship Week is December 16th through the 19th. And if you missed some of our discussion with Coach Jones in regards to the other players who will be signing national letters of intent, here they are. Defensive end Cooper Cyphers with Montana, quarterback Lincoln Tubbs with Air Force, defensive lineman Kason Miller with Hardin Simmons out of Abilene, offensive lineman Ryan Campbell with Trinity University down in San Antonio, and wide receiver Jamal Hollister with Southwest Baptist in Missouri. And then one other sports signing, that'll be one of our guests tonight, that'll be guard Liz Griffin. She is signing with St. Mary's University down in San Antonio. All right, pleased to be joined by boys head coach Drew Baker. Of course, Donnie Ott, the girls coach, not with us on this podcast this week because of a schedule conflict, but since this is realignment day, Coach, just your thoughts on the realignment. You came from a 6A program in Mesquite where it was dealing with multiple schools, kind of a enrollment, and I should say alignment, kind of what Aledo was going to go into, but just anything to know there and just some overall thoughts.
Well, I mean, like Coach Jones just said, I think we were all caught off guard a little bit at the way it all kind of played out. But, we knew we were headed that way.
Yeah.
Just going back to May and the interview process, that was one of my questions is how soon do we go 6A? You just know the way the area's growing. So, I just think the Arlington was kind of off of our radar. So,
Yeah.
But other than that, we're excited about it.
It's kind of like the UIL pulling the carpet out from under people's face. They always find a way to do that, though, don't they, every year?
And there was a lot of predictions, and the only thing that stayed true to the predictions was Granbury, Weatherford, and us all went together.
Yeah, that seemed to make a lot of sense. Geography being as close as they are, it's like they're all 6A. You got to keep them together. That's really it would be foolish, really, to kind of separate them. And so it makes sense to keep all three of you together. The Arlington ISD basketball reputation, I took a look at them earlier today, not having the season that all of them that wanted to. Martin's having a decent season. They have been kind of, over the years, been the most reputable program of all of them. Just your recollection of Arlington, and I know you have a season to finish here, but just overall impressions if you took a gander at Arlington or know of them because of maybe some of your Mesquite teams playing them, running into them in a tournament or something like that.
Not a lot of times have I crossed paths with them. This year we scrimmaged them. Martin. I mean, Martin's usually the one that kind of stands out to me as far as Arlington schools, as far as my knowledge of them. I mean, I remember a couple years back watching Martin play Lake Highlands when they had Trey Johnson, and well coached. I mean, they've got some talent there. So I'm excited about it. I think with the growth that we have and a lot of momentum we have with our younger programs. I mean, our JV's only, I think they've lost 5-6 games on the season.
Right.
Our freshmen have only lost 3 or 4 on the season. We have 2 really good 8th grade classes, one from MMS, AMS. So when we merge them, our young kids and the momentum we have, like I'm very excited about going into that district and what it looks like for us to be very competitive, compete for district championships, playoff spots. So I'm excited about it, and I think our kids are too.
Okay, and speaking of being excited, we can be excited too because you all have clinched a playoff spot. I look because the 5th place team had 5 losses and you don't have any, so you're in with do the math.
Yeah, you asked that, and I just I kind of was like, I'm not even going to do the math because I don't want that to be my mentality.
But it's my job to do the math on something like that. So
I'll believe you on that one.
All right, so I'll congratulate you on the playoff berth. But just talk about the week because it was a weird week for everybody. Aledo was not alone. Everybody across North Texas had to deal with bizarre schedules. But back-to-back games, waiting out the weather, that sort of thing. What kind of a weird week was that for you all?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we're all in the same boat kind of evens everything out. But it was weird because, we were hopeful, like, hey, what does Tuesday look like? Okay, Tuesday's off the table. What does Wednesday look like? Okay, Wednesday's off the table. Can we practice? So, it was just kind of moment to moment, just a lot of communication with, admin and with other coaches in the district and what everybody else in the district's doing. But, I'm really proud of our guys. We were able to get a short, quick practice in on Wednesday afternoon. We brought them up for a walkthrough early Thursday, played, Thursday evening, and then turned around and played, Friday back-to-back. And that's not normal during district. I mean, you see that during tournament season, but there's not anything really at stake during tournament season.
No.
And now there's things at stake, and that's what we kind of kept preaching to the guys is, we're in a really good position, but at the same time, some of the teams that we're playing are fighting for opportunity to get in. We've kind of done a good job of setting ourselves up, but some of the teams that we're playing need this win, and if they can knock us off, so they have a lot at stake. So just trying to keep the guys motivated, one game at a time. I mean, that was our focus. And I thought Thursday they came out and played really well. Our defense was really aggressive. And then Friday, I think, Fossil, we're at Fossil. They didn't have a game the night before, so that was their first one. And we
was that their bye? Is that their
no?
Or did they have to go Friday, Saturday? Or
So they went Friday, Saturday with Brewer.
Okay.
And so we were their first game, but they're our second. But we showed a lot of resilience. It wasn't the prettiest game for us. We gave up some momentum plays here and there. But I mean, we had a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter a couple times, and just had a possession or two that let them come back. But I never felt like we were in jeopardy. Like I never thought, oh man, this isn't going to go our way. Like our guys were very motivated, very locked into assignments, and next play mentality, which has been a really good thing for us.
Right.
Like we've got some really tough kids.
Well, the one thing that interests me about that Fossil Ridge game is because you've won all your other district games by at least 10 points. So maybe the fact that they had to finish it, go out and finish it, that it's kind of like, because that's what it's going to take to win a playoff game, is that you've got to learn how to finish. Because if you have a lead and somebody's coming back on you, there's a different. I mean, it's different when you're in the playoffs, because if you have a big lead and they're coming back on you, maybe your team panics. I'm not saying you specifically as Aledo, but someone in that position, they might lose their composure. But at the same time, going through something like this, maybe it helps in some respect too. Just dealing with it. And you got to finish somebody off, because even though you've got control and they're trying to fight back in, you still got to you've got to finish the game.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right on that. It was probably a good experience for us to have a close one, especially on the road. For our sake, we wouldn't want that.
Right.
Winning by double digits every game has been nice. And we've had some close ones. The Azle game was close at halftime.
Right.
The Brewer was really close at halftime. And this one, very similar to those two games. They had 2 guards that really played well. They shot the ball really well. And that's one of the things that we talked about, is when we get to the playoffs, kids are going to make big plays. The other team's best players they're going to hit big shots. They're going to make big plays. how do we respond? And so it was good to get to experience that and have that conversation with the guys and break down the film Saturday morning. Just looking at some of those opportunities that we gave up, and some of them we defended really well, and they just made good basketball plays, and that happens from time to time. And so I think you're right. It's a great opportunity for us to go through that now, still come out with a win on the road, because the playoff round matchup that we're looking at for the first round is going to be tougher than that.
Right.
And they're going to have some guys that can make some plays. So.
I say it simply to some people when they kind of get wrapped up about their own team, and I said, well, there's another team on the floor, and they want to win the game too. It's not it's not all about. It's nice to be all invested in your team, and you want them to win, but that other team out there who you're not cheering for wants to do the same thing that the team that you're cheering for wants to do as well. A couple things here that I want to point out. Again, third consecutive 20-win season. Again, third consecutive playoff appearance here. So I would have to think. And, of course, this is your first year here, but the fact that this program has reached this, what does that mean to you? The fact that, again, kids were changing system from Brian Blackburn to you this year, and still you come out with a 22-6 record to this point going into this week, and with the district championship to go chase. What's that mean? But to stop for a second and have what you have to this point, what does that tell you, and what does that mean to you?
Well, I mean, I think it speaks of the previous coaches. Coach Robinson 2 years ago, 20-win season, and then Blackburn last year, 20-win season. And so, I think that says a lot about the kids and the community and the direction that basketball is headed in Aledo. I mean, you have 3 different coaches in 3 years, but you've had success every year. Well, what's the common denominator? The kids, the community, the families. There's a lot of momentum for basketball here, and that's what excites me. And that's one of the things that drew me, to looking at the opportunity to be the head coach here. So I'm excited about the direction of the program and the kids. And, like I spoke on earlier, our JV, our freshmen, our 8th grade teams, we've got some good kids stacked up. Our 7th grade, I like watching our 7th grade kids. So, I think the program's in a really good place, and I'm excited about it. And I think, for me, when I look back, these kids, it's about building relationships. So we wanted to build some relationships early on and let them know, look, I'm here for you. I'm not here for myself. I mean, I've had my moments and my opportunities. I want to do something that you guys can look back on and be proud of.
Right.
And they've committed to that really well. The staff has been great, so we're in a good place.
Yeah, I was going to say the one thing too is about not only you're talking about your 7th grade team, but the fact that your squad, 22 wins, as I mentioned, going back to the playoffs. Potential chance of locking down the district championship as early as this week. But your 7th graders and your 8th graders and even the kids in the elementary school who are starting to just play youth basketball or that sort of thing, they see that now and they kind of get excited. So I would think that does a lot for just those coming generations too.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been very involved with both middle schools this year. I'll go to MMS after a game, and I'll send a coach to AMS or vice versa. I'll go to AMS and we'll send somebody to MMS because we want those kids to be excited about, what's coming and what they can be a part of. And they need to know who we are, and they need to know that we know who they are, and build that relationship early on. So that's been a priority is pouring into our younger kids because we want that excitement. We don't want to have one of those seasons where it's like, well, that was a good group. Well, they graduated. Now what? We want to be a program that consistently continues to bring in the next group ready to roll. This is the standard. This is the expectation. This is what we do. This is Aledo.
It was interesting because I wrote a column for NTX Varsity Sports about this program itself, and I said, what's the first thing that comes to people's mind when it comes to Aledo athletics? And it was football, state legendary program, softball dominant, baseball state championship, girls basketball very consistent. And I said with boys basketball, it was kind of I used the word meh. Because of what had been going on prior to the last 3 years. And now that you start to see this over, as coaches like to say, a winning streak doesn't start or any kind of positive streak doesn't start until you get to 3. Well, now you got your 3. So I think the fact that you guys have done that has now started to change the reputation too. Maybe you're not ranked in the TABC 5A poll, which I don't understand that, but that's another discussion for another time. But the fact that you have got this kind of momentum going, that you've got to earn it too, and you've got to earn your stripes a little bit by stacking these kinds of seasons together.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, once or twice, people are like, oh, it was a good group, or, but when you do it that 3rd year and that 4th year, I think then you start to see people gravitate to paying attention. And that's kind of what I sense this year is we've had a lot of coaches, kind of perk up a little bit and kind of keep an eye on us in conversations. And I think, how we end district this year and, if we can roll through and continue to be dominant and not have too many close games in district, I think that says a lot. And we kind of talk about that, and not in an arrogant way, but just in a confidence way. We want to prepare to separate ourselves. Is our preparation allowing us to separate ourselves from this district? And not just because we're headed to 6A, but that needs to be the plan every year. And so I do think that year 3, having a 20-win season, clinching playoffs, hopefully, winning a district title again, back to back. I think people start to take notice, and I think going into the 6A district that we're in next year, I think people are going to take notice of us being there. Like I don't think we're, oh hey, the new kids over here. Like I think we're going to go in and be very competitive. And I think it, goes back again to Coach Robinson and Coach Blackburn, and then the momentum that we've carried into this year with myself and our staff. And I just think these kids have started to turn some heads with coaches and with the community and the young kids looking up to them. And it's been fun to watch that.
And you have one more carrot that's kind of dangling in front of you this week, going to get that second consecutive district championship. Now, for people who have forgotten, when Aledo won the district championship last year, first one ever in program history. Now you're going for back-to-back, and the fact, though, so that kind of speaks for itself. And that's something to kind of keep the guys invested, too. Not that it shouldn't be the reason to keep them invested because it's about playing to a standard, but that's a nice bonus to have in front of it, too.
It is. And there's always something. I mean, if you're a competitor, there's always something that you want to put in front of yourself and challenge yourself as a small goal or as like a next step. And for me going into tomorrow's game, Saginaw's the one team that beat them in district last year.
Right.
Stubbed her toe, lost to Saginaw. Well, let's put a chip on our shoulder. Let's, hey, let's not do that again. And then, the game after that, like, hey, let's, take another step forward to that district title. I mean, just every day we're preparing and we're trying to stay very grounded in that day and that moment and what it means for our next step, whether it's a practice, whether it's a game. We don't want to look too far ahead, like, hey, we made the playoffs. Who's our first round matchup? Hey, next year we're going to 6A. Like, we want to be in the moment, and our guys have done that really, really well. Okay, so I'm going to force you to be out of the moment because I am going to ask you in this final question about starting to think about playoffs because you kind of have to. I mean, whether as much as you want to stay grounded, as you mentioned, and keeping your team that way, you kind of have to start looking at the likes of, I know you've mentioned Denton High and Birdville High out of 6-5A. Both those teams are ranked in the state top 25 poll, but you kind of have to juggle things at the same time here because you got to keep your team locked in for the task at hand, but you also have to start saying, okay, how do we start looking ahead and then figuring out things for our playoffs when we get started in a couple of weeks? Yeah, and we have. We, as a staff, we went and watched Denton Ryan and Birdville play, last week, and we'll do it again on our off week. We'll go watch another one, and by that time we'll know who it is. But yeah, it's a balance of this is where we're at right now. This is what we need to take care of right now. But we also need to be taking steps towards preparation for, playoffs. Right. And so we just have those honest, transparent conversations with the guys. Hey, we talk about this. We're preparing for this, but we're not overlooking, where we're at currently. Right. And yes, right now, Denton's leading that district, and Denton looks really good. They play a really tough zone. They're a game in front of Birdville. So Denton Ryan's sitting in 4th place, and if those 3 remain like that, we would see Denton Ryan. Okay. And that's if we win out. If we finish first, win the district, we would see Denton Ryan just because of the Division I, Division II matchups. Right. If Denton Ryan were to not make it in, then we would see Birdville or Denton, depending on who's first, who's second.
Then you need to start cheering for Ryan quite a bit. And so
all 3 of them are going to be tough. Right. I mean, Birdville and Denton obviously are ranked. Right. And they've got really good programs this year, and we've looked and watched and kept up with them, and there's some things that they do really well that we're going to have to prepare for, and they also have some chinks in the armor that we can attack, and exactly. they've got to prepare for us too. So that's kind of the message we send for the guys is, hey, whether they're ranked or not, they've got to lace them up and get on the floor just like us, and we've got an opportunity in front of us. But even Denton Ryan, I mean, they're going to be tough even though they're not ranked, and they come. That's a tough district. Yep. And so we'll be prepared for whoever it is that we see, and we'll have the guys ready to roll.
All right, we're looking forward to it. Again, the Bearcats will be taking on Saginaw on Tuesday, then travel down to Granbury on Friday down in Hood County. Coach, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, and we want to remind you that this Aledo Coaches Show podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn and Nye Physio and Performance. They can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats with expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training. H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. And by Hiley Mazda. Head to Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth today. Their new state-of-the-art facility is conveniently located just off of I-30. Exit Las Vegas Trail and experience top-notch service and hassle-free buying. Don't forget to ask about this month's special offers. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, family owned and operated for over 30 years. Final segment of the podcast coming up. We're going to be joined by guards Josiah Jenkins from the boys and Liz Griffin from the girls. Back after this timeout. Back here on the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, I'm Kevin Lonnquist. Our third segment tonight, we're joined by a couple of players from each of the boys and girls basketball teams. That's junior guard Josiah Jenkins and senior guard and St. Mary's signee to be Liz Griffin. So thanks for being here, for joining us here. I want to ask both of you, of course, both these teams have already clinched playoff spots. You're now both trying to head toward district championships. I'll start with you on this, Josiah. And I've kind of asked all your other teammates who have been on this podcast about highs and lows of the season. What have you taken away from this year, both from a good standpoint and then a big learning tool?
Yes, sir. We are very competitive. We compete to be the best, and we've had our falls. We came short in a couple of games, but we always learn and we always fight. That's one thing that I love about my boys, that we're gonna fight to the very end. One good thing is that we stay together, good or bad. We could go through a drought of not scoring, and we'll still be together, lock up on defense and get stops. And we are very resilient. Yes, sir.
All right. What about for you, Liz?
I think for us, one of our highs was definitely going into our McDonald's tournament, because I'm not going to lie, I don't think a lot of people thought we were going to perform well in that tournament because there's so many high-level teams.
Right.
But we ended up performing very well, and we competed with some of the top 6A teams that were ranked at that time. And I think just competing in that shows that we can compete with those teams. And then I think a low for us is just, falling short to a couple of teams. And then I think just not starting off well in our games. We start off very slow, and we end up picking it up at the end, but we need to learn to start better, because in playoffs it's not going to be easy.
All right. Crazy week for both of your teams last week, because the fact that you all were out. I mean, you actually had the bye last Friday, a week ago Friday rather, and then you didn't play until I think it was last Thursday. And of course, I think you all could actually got together for the first time in about 10 days to practice maybe on Wednesday, and then a little walkthrough on Thursday before you played. So what was the key of trying to keep yourself sharp before you guys, could really get back out on the floor and start working together as a team? I'll start with you on this, Liz.
I think it was hard because we were just sitting at home for a while, and then when we came back for our first practice, we looked a little out of shape and maybe a little rusty. But I think just those few practices, we tried to work as hard as we could to gain that time back and to just sharpen up before we played Chisholm. I think it did affect us a little bit, though, because we played back-to-back, and it was a little rough, but we pulled out the wins.
Stamina-wise, that sort of
Right.
Josiah, what about for you, just going back-to-back?
Yes, sir. It's very hard on our bodies and on our minds. But we stayed together. Practice was a little rough for us. Coach was really mad. We had, but at the end of the day, though, he was proud of the way we came out and fought in each game, knowing that we haven't been able to practice or really work on our skills. Yes, sir.
All right. So what about for you, Liz? Okay, I'm going to ask you the growth of your game over the last 2 years under Coach Ott. What do you think has changed from when you first started playing for him at the beginning, like November of last year, 24-25 season, to where you are now? Where have you seen it?
I think for me, at the beginning of that time when he came in, I wasn't used to his offenses. It was different than our previous coach, and I think over that time I grew a lot, having more confidence in his offenses and going through it and seeing where I can score in them, seeing where I can hit others. But yeah, I think just growing in his offense and getting more confidence in my game, and he really instills that in my mind that I have a green light and I can shoot the ball, I can pass whenever I want, I can handle the ball. He gives me that confidence and allows me to play my game.
And obviously it's translated to you for signing with St. Mary's down in
Right.
San Antonio. Congratulations to you on that. You'll do that on Wednesday. Just talk about what that opportunity means to you.
It means a lot to me. I mean, God's given me great opportunities to be able to play basketball and to find a school that fits me, and their program fits me very well, and I think their style of play fits me. And I think it's similar to Coach Ott's style of play. You know, we have pick and rolls and stuff, and that's similar in that aspect in the college level. But I think, yeah, it means a lot to me that coaches that I've had in the past have put me in that situation.
Okay, Josiah, same for you, but this is a little different because you go from one style under Coach Blackburn last year to another style this year, completely different from Coach Baker. And I've kind of asked your teammates the same kind of a question about making that transition because you've got two different styles of basketball that you've played. So what's been the greatest challenge for you, adjustment, and what you've learned from learning from two different styles of ball?
Big challenge is that I am not gonna have my way. He will grill me. He gets in your face, but it's out of love and it's passion for the game, and it drives us to want to play hard for him because you want a coach that instills that confidence. And yes, it's different, but I think different is good. He's opened the space up for me and a lot of our guards that can get downhill and distribute and catch and shoot. And so it makes the game a lot more easier and a lot more fluent, like we're playing ourselves and not just playing robot basketball.
All right, so let me ask you all about this because both of you all have earned playoff berths. You're now trying to close down district championships. I think, Liz, you all can do this on Tuesday against Saginaw. And if you guys take care of business this week, Josiah, with your two games against Saginaw and Granbury, you'll do the same. But the fact that you all have earned playoff berths already, just talk about the significance of knowing that your seasons are going to be extended deeper into February. I'll start with you on this, Josiah.
Yeah, it's obviously an honor to be able to compete for a state championship. Every team wants to be in our shoes, and every team wants to make the playoffs. It's obviously very hard, but it's a very good feeling that we will be able to compete and maybe make history again this year.
All right, what about for you, Liz?
I know for our team, we're excited that we have that playoff opportunity, but I think we're also excited because we have a chance to be undefeated in district, and that hasn't happened in a while. We also haven't had a district championship in a while. But that playoff run would be nice because, you know, last year we made it to third round, and that was the first time in a while, and I think this year we could go deeper, and my goal's always been a state championship. So the fact that we have an opportunity at that and we've put ourselves in a good position.
Okay, so let's talk about district championships. Of course, you don't want to look ahead. It's kind of like
Right.
as Coach Baker was talking about it, and of course Coach Ott would say the same thing about let's stay focused on one play at a time, one quarter at a time, all that good stuff. But the fact that both of these programs could win district championships, and that's never happened before. The boys would be second consecutive district championship if they're fortunate this week. You all could do it this week, as we mentioned. So what would that mean, though, just in terms of just how Aledo is viewed from a basketball perspective? Because we obviously know what Aledo's reputation is football-wise, but the fact now that the basketball programs are doing what they're doing. I'll start with you on this, on what that would mean if both of these programs can wrap up district titles.
It would put a huge smile on everybody in Aledo that loves Aledo, and it would mean something for the basketball program. When you see Aledo, you see football, but with this, you'll see football and basketball. And so with this and with us being as successful as we are, it just brings a lot of Aledo pride and a lot of basketball that we can show people that basketball is fun too, and we're good at basketball too. So yes, sir.
All right, so what about for you, Liz, on just your perspective on that?
I think for us, it just puts basketball on the map, for Aledo, because it's always been football. Everybody's attention goes to football. When you say Aledo, they think, oh, football. We'll see people in public, they're like, oh, y'all are a football school. But I think it's just good for us because it'll bring more attention to basketball, and the kids that are growing up in Aledo will start to play basketball more and see that as an option.
And then final question for both of you, because the intensity is different now because you all have clinched a playoff berth. Obviously, the district championship is going to be part of that. So there's still that as I mentioned with Coach Baker, there's still that dangling carrot to go chase. But what's the challenge, though, to maintaining the intensity, just the focus for these last few weeks of the season? Really, for you guys, you have, I think 4 games left, and then, Liz, you all have 3 left. So what's going to be important about making sure that you stay like you're starting to, like when you play Saginaw, like you're almost like 0-0 in district play rather than 8-0. I'll start with you on this, Josiah.
Yes, sir. It's obviously hard. We're deep in the season. Everybody's tired, but we know we came in here with a goal. We want to be back-to-back district champions. And so with that in the back of our minds, it's just pushing us to, like, just be as, like, coherent and coefficient as possible. And so be together. And so, yes, with that, we just want to see each game as, like, you're in front of us and you're in our way of competing for that championship. Sir.
And Liz, I think I know what your answer is going to be because you spoke to it, because the fact that this program hasn't won a district championship in a while, and it's sitting right there. So I'm sure there's that. I don't think intensity and focus is going to be a problem because of what you all want to get done.
Right, and I think that Coach Ott puts it in our mind a lot that before every game, honestly, that the other team that's playing, they need that win so that they can have a better route in the playoffs. And he puts that in our mind a lot because the teams that we've been playing, like Chisholm and then Saginaw now, they're competing with each other, so they want to beat us, so they have that extra win. And so I think that helps us to be more intense because we know what the other team wants, so we know what we need to do to beat them.
All right. Well, great to visit with both of you about your seasons. Again, congratulations to both of you on making the playoffs. Now we wish you best of luck in terms of trying to lock down those district championships. Get them done this week, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Josiah Jenkins, junior guard, and senior guard Liz Griffin. And I want to thank you all for being part of this Aledo Coaches Show podcast. And so for my engineer, Zach Holmes, and the rest of the Hank FM staff, thanks for being with us here at Parker County Brewing Company. We will talk to you all next week as we talk playoff basketball and maybe district championship basketball. I'm Kevin Lonnquist. So long for the Aledo Coaches Show podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. With the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist. Please like and subscribe to this podcast and tell a friend. You're also welcome to join us every Monday night at 7 from Parker County Brewing Company in Willow Park. It's the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, a presentation of Real Country 92.1, Hank FM, and NTXVarsitySports.com.